There are fates worse than death. I have lived long enough to know this truth. My name was Althor Moonshade. Once, I was a sentinel of Zinashari, sworn to guard a world that believed itself eternal. Like all Kaldorei of that age, I believed death was a thing that happened to other people's short-lived races, who burned brightly and vanished like sparks in the dark. We were immortal, or so we told ourselves. Then the world broke. When the well of eternity imploded, it tore the heart out of Azeroth. Seas swallowed empires, forests burned or drowned. The sky itself seemed to scream as the land was reshaped. We survived, but survival is not the same as living. After the sundering, the dragon aspects offered us a bargain. Immortality, bound to Nordrassil. No more aging, no more death by time. Only war, vigilance, and endless memory. Most of my people accepted without hesitation. I did not. They say the immortals slept for centuries beneath the boughs of the New World tree. When I speak of sleep, understand that it was not rest, it was not dreaming. It was a deep, hollow stillness, an endless vigil where years passed like drifting ash, and the world moved on without you. I watched friends awaken only to realize entire eras had vanished. I watched druids forget the faces of the sisters they had once sworn to protect. I watched memory rot. Immortality did not preserve us. It eroded us. Those who accepted the dragon's gift became something distant. Still Kaldorei in body, yes, but bound to ritual. 2 cycles, to a duty that never ended. They endured, but they no longer lived. And so, when the choice came, I refused. I chose mortality, not loudly, not heroically. There was no ceremony. I simply stepped away from Nordrassil's blessing and felt time return to me like a wound reopening. My hands trembled for the first time in centuries. My breath felt heavy, and I felt something else: fear. Fear, yes, but also meaning. I aged, slowly at first, barely noticeable across decades, but enough to remind me that each dawn mattered, that each conversation might be the last, that each battle carried a cost not measured in centuries, but in years. Other Kaldorei pitied me. You will wither, they said. You will be forgotten. They were wrong. The immortals watched the world like statues. I walked it. I fought in skirmishes they would never remember. I watched human kingdoms rise and fall in what felt like heartbeats. I learned their names, their songs, their grief. I buried friends whose lives burned briefly but brilliantly. When the Third War came, I stood beside mortals who knew they would die and fought anyway. And I understood something my immortal kin could not. Courage only exists when time is limited. After Mount Hyjal, when Nordrassil burned and immortality was stripped from us all, many of my people wept. They cried, not for the loss of eternal life, but for the centuries they had wasted believing it was a blessing. They asked me once, quietly, if I regretted my choice. I told them the truth. I remember faces. I remember names. I remember what it felt like to care without the numb certainty of forever. Immortality did not save the Night Elves. It preserved them like insects in amber. Mortality gave us something far rarer, a reason to live. I am old now, older than most, living Kaldorei, younger than the forests that remember the world before the sea swallowed our cities. My hands are unsteady. My sight fades beneath moonlight that once felt eternal, and soon I will die. But when I do, I will not fade into endless sleep beneath a tree that demands obedience. I will rest, and in that rest, I will know that my life brief, fragile, finite meant something. The years did not rush me. They came softly, like moss reclaiming stone. Mortality is not loud. It does not announce itself with trumpets or prophecy. It simply waits, patient and certain, while you learn the weight of small things, the ache in the knees before rain, the way names slip away if you do not speak them often enough. Immortals never learn this. They believe time is an enemy to be conquered. Mortals understand it is a tide. I watched my immortal kin struggle when Nordrassil burned, not because they were daimoni had faced battle before, but because they could no longer escape death by sleeping through centuries. Time had found them at last, and they did not know how to look it in the eye. Some became bitter, others became hollow. Only a few finally woke. I remember one druid, ancient even by our standards, who sat beneath the scorched roots of the world tree and asked me how I endured the fear of ending. I told him the truth I had learned too late to teach him gently. You do not endure it, you let it change you. When every moment might be the last, you listen more carefully. You choose your battles. You forgive faster, not because wounds hurt less, but because carrying them is heavier than letting them go. Immortality teaches vigilance. Mortality teaches mercy. I have buried more people than I can name now. Humans, orcs, a Drani child who never learned to control the light and blamed herself for every failure. Their graves are scattered across Azeroth, like quiet punctuation marks periods at the end of stories no one else remembers. The immortals say this is tragedy. They are wrong. Tragedy is forgetting why a life mattered. I remember, sometimes, in the long hours before dawn, I feel the old pull of the forest, the whisper that promises rest without dreams, memory without pain. I understand now why so many chose it. Endless sleep is tempting when you are tired enough, but sleep is not peace. Peace is knowing when to stop walking. My body weakens. I feel it in the way my bowstring bites my fingers, in how moonlight blurs instead of sharpens. The forest no longer asks me to guard it. It only watches, as it always has, waiting to reclaim what was borrowed. I am not afraid. Fear belongs to those who believe they have unfinished eternities ahead of them. I have lived inside my limits. I have loved knowing it would end. I have stood beneath stars that outlived empires and still felt sufficient. When I die, the world will not pause. That is as it should be. The waves will keep erasing the ruins of Zinashari. New heroes will rise, convinced the war they fight is the last. Trees will grow where cities once burned, and children will play without knowing why the earth beneath them is salted with old magic. And somewhere, perhaps, another night elf will stand where I once stood offered eternity, warned of frailty, and to choose, quietly, to live a shorter life that belongs to them. If that happens, then none of this was wasted. Not the pain, not the ending, only the sleep would have been. The universe is vast. The voice is small. Nothing leans in to listen. There is a moment, near the end, when the world reveals itself honestly, not cruelly, not kindly, just truthfully. It happens when the body grows quiet enough that hope no longer shouts over reality. I feel it now. The ache in my chest does not ask permission. My breath shortens without apology. The night does not pause to accommodate my weakness. Above me, the stars remain sharp and indifferent, burning relics of explosions, so old that even memory has abandoned them. They were dying long before I was born. They will keep dying long after my bones are dust. We once believed the cosmos cared, that Azeroth was special, that Wit's guardians, its chosen, its survivors, were part of some vast design that bent gently toward meaning. That belief was a comfort. It was never evidence. I have watched history repeat itself with new names and old blood. The same wars, the same justifications, the same promises whispered to soldiers who will never live long enough to see them fulfilled. Heroes rise, villains fall, and the earth absorbs them all with equal patience. Immortality did not spare my people from this truth. It only delayed their understanding. They slept through centuries, dreaming of relevance, while the world reshaped itself without asking their permission. When they woke, they spoke of destiny, but their words echoed in empty halls. Destiny is a story told by those who fear randomness. I wanted to believe that choosing mortality meant choosing weight, that a finite life pressed meaning into every moment, like ink into parchment. For a time, that belief sustained me. Now, at the edge, I see how fragile it was. Meaning does not persist, it dissolves. The lives I remember so vividly, their laughter, their final words, the warmth of their hands cooling in mine exist only because I still exist to remember them. When I am gone, they will go again, erased more completely than before. Not even forgotten, unrecorded. The forest will not grieve. The wind will not pause. Azeroth will continue its long, grinding orbit around a star that does not know its name. Even the gods, if they exist at all, will not mark the absence. I am not important enough to be mourned by the universe. None of us are. That is the great, unspoken truth beneath every myth. Existence does not need witnesses. It does not improve with observation. It does not care whether it is understood. It simply continues until it doesn't. When death comes, it will not feel like falling into darkness. It will feel like being switched off mid-thought, mid-breath, mid-meaning. No conclusion, no summary, just interruption. And somewhere, far above this small world, the stars will burn on, collapsing and reforming in cycles so vast that even despair becomes insignificant. I do not fear dying. I fear that living was never enough to matter. The night has grown gentle. Not warm, never warm, but kind in the way old things can be when they no longer expect anything from you. The ground beneath me is cool and steady. It does not shift. It does not ask me to rise. I let my weight sink into it. For so long, I measured myself by endurance, how many battles I survived, how many years I carried my duty without complaint. Immortals taught us that worth was proven by persistence. Mortality taught me something quieter. Worth is not proven, it is experienced. I listen to the forest, and it listens back not as a guardian, not as a sentinel, but as a fellow presence that will one day also be gone. Leaves rustle. Insects speak in small, patient rhythms. Somewhere, water moves over stone, repeating a sound it has made for longer than memory. None of it is in a hurry. I think of the lives that passed through mine like brief lantern light. The soldier who shared his last ration without knowing it would be his last kindness. The child who asked me why the moon followed us through the trees. The friend who died believing the world would be better tomorrow, even if they would not be there to see it. They did not need forever. They had enough. Immortality promised escape from loss, but loss is how we learn to hold gently. If everything is endless, nothing is precious. If nothing is precious, nothing is held. I close my eyes and feel the long weight of years settle not as regret, not as sorrow, but as completion, like a story told to its final sentence without needing an epilogue. I am tired in a way sleep cannot fix, and that is all right. When my breath slows and finally stops, the world will not break. It will do what it has always done, make room. Roots will grow where I lay. Rain will pass through the soil that remembers my warmth for a little while, then forgets. The forgetting is not cruelty, it is mercy. To be remembered forever would be another kind of burden. To fade is to be released from expectation, from explanation, from the need to justify one's existence. I was here. I walked beneath the moon. I loved briefly. I endured imperfectly. That is sufficient. The night deepens. My thoughts loosen their grip. I do not reach for tomorrow. I let it go to someone else. The world does not need me awake anymore, so I rest. The night arrives without announcement. It always does. No heralds, no warnings, no ceremony. The light simply loosens its grip on the world, and shadow settles where it always intended to be. I have watched this happen more times than I can remember. I have watched the day retreat like a tide that knows it will return, and I have watched the night take its place with the patience of something that has never needed permission. The night feels no different, and yet it is. The forest breathes, leaves whisper to one another in a language older than fear. Somewhere, far away, water moves over stone, repeating a sound it learned before names were given to things. I sit beneath the open sky, where moonlight reaches the ground without obstruction. I do not seek shelter. I do not need it anymore. Once, I believed the night was something to be guarded against. Now, I understand it is something to be entered. I have lived long enough to feel the weight of hours again. Mortality returned that weight to me, gently at first, then all at once. The days began to matter. The nights began to linger. This is one of those nights, the kind that does not ask to be remembered, only felt. The world does not announce itself when it withdraws. It simply grows distant. Sound becomes thinner. The wind no longer asks permission to pass through me. Sound becomes thinner. The wind no longer asks permission to pass through me. I once believed that choosing mortality was an act of defiance. I did not understand how small reality truly is. The ground beneath my feet holds the remains of lives that were certain they mattered. Everything that ever spoke eventually learned the language of silence. Immortality was not a gift. It was a delay, a postponement of the moment when illusion finally collapses under its own weight. The cosmos does not interrupt this process. It allows it. Stars burn without knowing they burn. Worlds break without understanding fracture. Nothing notices the difference. I feel this truth settle not as terror, but as gravity. I was never central. I was never required. And yet I am still here. That may be all anything ever is. Duration only stretches the echo. Resistance softens. Impermanence does not chase us. We chase it. I no longer feel compelled to leave a mark. They are complete because they happened. I dissolve into scale. The world does not register it, and that is not cruelty. That is peace, stripped of illusion.